Welcome to Plot Twist Radio, the show where creativity, storytelling, and the unpredictable path of the creative life all collide. I'm your host, Erin Egnatz. Welcome back to Plot Twist Radio, the show where we explore the unexpected turns that shape great stories and the storytellers behind them. Today's guest is writer Nina Camp, a New York-based author whose creative journey has taken her from classical music and advertising copywriting to deeply personal essays and now fiction. Her work has appeared in outlets like HuffPost and Good Housekeeping, where she developed a voice that blends humor, vulnerability, and sharp observations about the messy, emotional sides of being human. In this episode, we talk about the long road from personal essays to novel writing, how humor can help us process emotional chaos, and why some of the most powerful, creative breakthroughs happen later in life. We also dive into her novel, Predicting Belinda, which explores love, intuition, self-discovery, and the strange ways our expectations collide with reality. If you've ever wondered how writers turn life's awkward moments, doubts, and triumphs into stories that resonate with readers, you're going to enjoy this conversation. Nina, hello and welcome to Plot Twist Radio. Can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I can tell a little. So I have a background actually in writing and in music. And I am a New Yorker since 1999. So I kind of can't escape the city. I don't know, for all its problems and chaos. I'm just stuck here. So I came in 99 with a background in copywriting. I was an ad writer. So direct mail slash mail order copywriting. I don't know if you are old enough to know that we used to sell products through snail mail.
I am,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Okay, yeah, so that's how I was trained, as, like, kind of a hardcore copywriter, like a long pitch, a 10-page letter or a magazine to sell vitamins, health books. It was all alternative health. I worked for a publishing company that sold everything through the mail. So, yeah, so I'm sort of a trained, pitch writer, basically. And so I came to New York doing that freelance, but I also have a background in music. I studied classical composition at a conservatory. So I guess I never could get away from the love of music. And so I ended up, while being an ad writer in New York, also singing in an amateur chorus, taking classical voice lessons, and then eventually taking some acting classes and doing some acting because it feeds in to, being able to tell a story. If you have the capacity, you need acting, you need training, so so I kind of did that, but storytelling is kind of where my home is, so I end up back with writing again and again. I would say it was about 2010 that I started writing, the kind of writing that got me some coverage at HuffPost and Good Housekeeping. Just, personal essays, humor pieces, like, "What is this thing called love? Who am I? Why is everything going wrong?" And people seem to relate to that. So that added a nice layer of creativity, and then eventually that turned into writing fiction. It turned into writing a novel, which I basically just completed about a year ago after a long, winding road, and I'm working with a wonderful literary agent and seeing if I can take it to the next level to get published and get exposure.
That's awesome. And you've got the agent, so that's one of the hardest parts of it.
It is, and it was a bumpy ride getting because there were a couple of agents interested over the years, but people kinda back away when they realize it's more work than they thought, and they can't just sell the product right off the shelf. So, it's been a process finding someone who's interested enough to kinda collaborate and give me some guidance, so, yeah.
What comes more natural to you? Is it the fiction writing or is it more of what you learned in school?
What comes more natural is basically journaling. Like, kinda Dear Diary. Just sit down and me and the laptop, me and the pad and paper, and just get into, like, what is going on in my brain? How do I unpack this? So it's a completely separate skill being a copywriter. You're just kind of like a cheerleader for a product, but also you kinda have to grab someone by the lapels and say, "I'm gonna tell you why you need this." And then hope that well, now it would be click purchase, but 20 years ago, it would be like, send in a coupon or call an 800 number. Yeah. So, yeah, so I would say more natural is just private, personal writing. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. So what is your writing process like? Do you outline or do you just kind of go for it?
I just kinda go for it. It's so my strength where my comfort zone is short form pieces because I have an impulse, I have a memory, I have a stressed out moment, I have something funny, and I'm like, okay, let me kind of put this in a frame. Let me get this into like 2,000 words, 4,000, what, something like that. When it comes to long form writing, I did not have a process and I did need agents along the way to say, okay, here's how a novel is structured. Here, like, it's just never been obvious to me. It's never been, and it's always been like a superpower. How do you do that? How do you hit all the plot points? How do you get the journey? How do you make the character, learn as she goes and hit obstacles and recover and like that's totally intimidating to me. So basically my process is very internal, very intuitive, step by step. I would put it that way. Yeah.
Yeah. That's kinda how I am too. I tried the whole outline thing once, and it was a disaster. I just could not get into it naturally, because everything is in here, and the story changes as I write it, What I envisioned when I first sat down, it's completely different from what actually happens.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think writers talk enough about that. I think it just feels like there's some skill, there's some structure that you need to take on. But I think I remember one mystery writer that I saw at like a reading years ago said that beginning her and she was like a famous mystery writer. She said beginning her novel was like starting at the top of like a misty mountain and walking slowly down and trying to find your way down through the mist and, like, the rocks and everything. So that was really comforting to hear that.
That's a great analogy too.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I feel. So, when you describe your life as an awkward rom-com, I was on your website, so I was checking it out.
Yeah.
When did you realize that humor wasn't just how you survived emotional chaos, but how you understood it?
How I understood it. That's a good question. I'm gonna make one more reference before I talk about myself. I believe Nora Ephron, who wrote, what was it called? Heartburn, which was based on her first marriage to
Yes,
a
yes,
journalist, right?
yes.
He said and he cheated on her, I think he was just a total animal. She wrote, I cannot quote her for sure, but she said, once she realized she could laugh about it, then she knew she was ready to write about it. So I would say, when I started writing essays in earnest, which was about 15 years ago, when I started writing about emotional stuff that was kind of heavy, family related, and I realized I couldn't get through the process unless I looked for ways to turn some light on, turn some humor onto that page. And that kind of brought in its own rhythm. Like, this is how I like to do it. I can certainly complain and whine and be miserable on the page forever, but that doesn't feel good for me, and I don't think it's gonna feel good for a reader. So, yeah, I would say, yeah, right when I started learning how to do this is when I started realizing this is what I wanna do. I wanna give some funny put some funny in it.
I
So,
think the funny helps balance out the heavy. It really makes it a more complete story. You write so openly, yet you describe yourself as an introvert, which I am too, living quietly in New York City.
yeah.
How does introversion shape what you notice and what makes it onto the page?
Okay, that's a good question. Well, I guess introversion, number one, it puts me, I kind of sit on the sidelines a lot. Like, I don't mind being around people for like a controlled amount of time, but I do kind of put myself in the position of an observer. I would much rather watch people and maybe talk to them about what drives them than expose myself. I guess that doesn't make any sense since all I do is write about myself. So I would say that, yeah, I guess the introversion it's my I go back to that as my comfort zone, as my relationship to the page. This is my time alone. Okay, I've been out in the world. I did my job as a human being the best I can, and now I'm gonna come back, take care of myself. I'm just gonna be alone in this silence and just like, okay, I had a lot of exposure to stuff today. What's really standing out? This funny little story or the way I kind of walked off and had a breakdown after that funny little story? Like, so I don't know if that's a helpful answer, but
Oh, absolutely. And I get it because I am very much introverted. People don't realize that because I'm a host and everything, but
yeah.
I'm very introverted and I like to observe. You said that I was just on a business trip and, my colleagues were out talking and stuff and I'm over to the side just kind of watching. And that's
Yeah.
where I feel comfortable. And that's where I get a lot of my story material really is just watching others.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the lantern metaphor a little bit here. I love your idea of being a tour guide through emotional chaos. What are readers usually most afraid to look at, and how do you gently force that light there?
Gosh, I don't know. I guess I would have to go by anytime I've had comments in the past, which was definitely Huffington Post because a lot of people like to chime in.
Oh yeah,
Mm, yeah, people don't wanna look at shame. They don't wanna look at their own, how their own role in the problems that go on in the problems that are in their lives. They don't wanna be uncomfortable and embarrassed.
right.
That's my first answer. I've never thought about this before. So I guess I kind of push myself to be as raw as I can on the page with the belief that we need to just be okay with our garbage. We need to be okay with what we're afraid of because everybody's afraid. Just basically, I'm kind of here to say, like, I'm a mess, but I'm okay. You can be messy too, and it's fine because you got to be honest. You can't connect otherwise if you're hiding, concealing. So,
I
yeah,
agree. I agree. And it's in a way it's nice to know that others are going through the same kind of thing. It may not be the exact same situation, but just to know that like you said, it's okay. It's okay to get through it. Lean on each other a little bit, lean through the writing. For me, writing is therapeutic. Do you find it that way too?
totally. I would say it's a double edged sword though. Because I find I can go too far down a rabbit hole of, self-reflection and questioning everything and doubting everything, and then I'm just kinda creating more discomfort. But if I know when to stop, if I know to, like, just get this out, get it out on the page, and let it go, then I think it can be, like, healing and helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Predicting Belinda, it marks a shift from essays to the long form fiction, as we were talking about.
Yeah.
What did the novel allow you to explore that maybe essays couldn't?
Okay. Number 1 is a long arc. Like a okay, so I would say my essays mostly do not or in the past, they have not showed change. They just show a state of mind, and clearly, readers want a change in in novel. So I have to figure out where the problem starts, structurally and emotionally, and how it's going to resolve, if that makes sense. So that it didn't I would say it didn't allow me to explore that, it forced me to explore that. It forced me to accept the fact that people want stories that show an ending, a resolution. So I have to figure that out. Even though life is just kind of it's ongoing. There's no real resolution. I don't ever feel like there's a safe landing spot. But in a novel, every character, because it's a happy novel, every character has to have a safe landing spot from my perspective, from what I did. So,
Yes. And
yeah.
that can be hard to write. Have you noticed that, trying to button everything up,
It feels
yeah,
it feels artificial, but,
yes,
so my job is to put as much of my humanness in it as possible so that it doesn't transmit as artificial. Yeah,
right. So
yeah.
the title Predicting Belinda, it suggests anticipation, control, maybe even self-protection.
Mhm.
Without spoilers, we don't want to ruin it for the readers. What happens when prediction collides with reality?
Okay. Yeah, so I don't think this is a spoiler. There's a psychic in the beginning of the book that says, "Okay, you got all kinds of romantic problems. There's a guy who's gonna show up. Maybe he can break some of these patterns that you have." So I would say Belinda, our protagonist, she's definitely addicted to psychics and she definitely is waiting for these people to show up, but she also has so much doubt and insecurity that she's still just kind of a frantic mess. But so this guy does show up and I think eventually she does realize, okay, this is the guy that the psychic was talking about. And then she forgets about the prediction and she just falls into the relationship 'cause at some point, there's just too many details. There's just too many intimate moments that no one could possibly predict. And so it becomes a living thing, and Belinda has to start taking some agency, like, and get some real awareness of who she is and what is happening. So, is that clear? I've never thought about
Oh,
the question
yes.
before. Okay.
No, that's a great
Okay,
answer.
okay,
Yes.
good. Okay.
So let's talk about midlife a little bit. This one really stood out to me because I'm turning 40 this year.
Oh, okay.
Not handling it well,
Yeah.
but so much cultural storytelling treats midlife like a decline or a punchline. What do you think midlife actually offers that younger versions of ourselves can't access?
Yeah, greater self-awareness, greater kindness to ourselves, less rushing around looking for results and reactions, more just like more connection to all of your own layers, which have been building all of these years. It's a place to settle. There's also a feeling of panic of like, okay, my juiciest years are behind me. Just kind of like what Miranda July's novel All Fours. I don't know if you've read that, but it's an amazing novel. And it's kind of like a woman approaching menopause, realizing like there's experiences I've never had and I'm running out of time as a woman with my body. So there's that dichotomy of like, all right, I'm done screwing around, feeling insecure, being frantic, the best I can be done with that. It's just in my system. But on the other hand, I want to make sure I get as much as I can out of these good years, like these years where I feel more stable and less freaked out. I would say midlife is not a joke. It's a powerful time. Emotions come to the surface and you cannot avoid them. You cannot pretend anymore. You can't fake it. And that's a powerful thing to have happen. You
It
you
is.
you have to, yeah, you have to embody it and deal with it. And women have the capacity. We have the capacity. We should do it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I've noticed the theme with this, especially with the women. We reach our creative peak kind of around this time. I didn't start writing until my late 30s, and I see that with a lot of people, the 30s, 40s, 50s. They're really starting to hit it now. They realize what they want to do in life. So, what do you most hope readers think or feel as they close the book?
Yeah. Um Okay, as much as I wanna provide a happily ever after, I want readers to feel like the process is equally as important as the ending. Enjoy the process of discovering yourself, enjoy the mistakes, make the connections where you can, the emotional connections, especially with yourself and with others. I hate to sound like I'm like Sesame Street teaching a lesson, but yeah, like, yeah, just go for it, even if you're scared. I mean, Belinda has some moments of triumph, but they're just tiny little triumphs, but for her, they're a big deal. And I just feel like we should all just appreciate our little triumphs, you know, day by day, whatever, year by year. So
I agree. So, what's up next for you after this one?
I have a sequel in mind, but I'm kind of in a holding pattern. I know I should be working on the sequel, but I'm just waiting to see what happens with this manuscript. What kind of editing it takes, you know? If it gets a publisher, it's gotta get a publisher, and then I'll know. I'll take the same character who is based on me and give her a deeper challenge. Like, right now, her challenge this first book, Predicting Belinda, her challenges are about discovering who she is so that she can find a relationship and so she can find a relationship that's satisfying, and I think the second book will be more about, like, how did she get how did she start accumulating all of these issues and problems in the first place? And can she go even deeper? Can she get rid of even more? You know, to go back to like history, childhood, things like that. Always with humor. I'm never gonna go too, dark with it. So
Right.
yeah.
Yes, that's a good balance. I agree. So, where can the listeners find you?
Oh, so I guess my website is ninacamp.com. You can go find me on Substack. Go to Substack, Nina Camp, or best thing, ninacamp.com, ninacamp.com. And all of my contact information will be on there.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. This has been great.
Yeah, this is great. So nice to meet you. Thank you.
You as well. I really enjoyed this discussion because Nina reminds us that storytelling doesn't come from having everything figured out. Sometimes the best stories come from the messy middle, where we're still learning who we are, still making mistakes, and still trying to understand our own experiences. If you'd like to learn more about Nina and follow her work, you can visit ninacamp.com, where you'll also find links to her writing and Substack. And if you enjoyed this episode of Plot Twist Radio, make sure to follow the show, leave a review, and share the episodes with someone who loves great conversations about creativity, writing, and the stories that shape our lives. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time for another story and another plot twist.